The coffee pot slipped from her trembling hands, spilling a dark brown stain across her white apron. But it wasn't the hot liquid that burned her. It was the laughter, the cruel, heartless laughter of 3 young men in the corner booth. The oldest, no more than 21, leaned back with a grin too proud for his age. His designer shirt screamed money. His arrogance screamed something worse. Without warning, he spat directly on her clean uniform and said something that made the whole diner go silent. The old woman's eyes flickered with hurt, but she didn't speak. She just stood there, coffee dripping from the pot, her pride breaking drop by drop. If you believe that kindness and respect should never depend on a person's age or status, take a second right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. These stories remind us that even the smallest actions reveal who we truly are. Her name was Martha Green. 69 years old, a widow, she had spent her entire life serving people with a smile. Every morning, she walked 5 blocks to the diner, tied her stained apron, and poured coffee for strangers who rarely met her eyes. She had weathered storms, losing her husband to cancer, raising her only son alone, yet always found a reason to greet each customer with kindness. But today, that kindness had been spat on, literally. The young man's name was Bryce Weller, son of a real estate magnate who owned half the town. He had never worked a day in his life. To him, people like Martha were invisible background figures in the movie of his comfortable world. Bryce laughed as his friends filmed the moment. "This will go viral," one of them snickered, holding up his phone. Martha wiped her apron, trembling. She whispered a soft apology, though she had done nothing wrong. She just wanted to disappear. What Bryce didn't notice was the reflection in the diner window. 4 figures stood by the door, motionless men in dark leather vests with Hell's Angels patches. One of them, broad-shouldered and tattooed, leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes cold and sharp. His name was Rex Dalton, a man who had seen the worst life had to offer and still lived by a code no one dared cross: respect those who serve you. The moment stretched. Martha turned to refill another table's coffee cup, pretending nothing had happened, but the tension in the diner was palpable. Even the jukebox seemed to fall silent. Bryce kept smirking, checking his phone, waiting for likes that hadn't even appeared yet. Before he could stand, the diner door closed with a heavy thud. Rex stepped forward, boots echoing against the checkered floor. His shadow fell across the booth, blotting out the light. The other bikers stood behind him, silent, watchful, not threatening, but formidable. The laughter at the booth died instantly. Rex didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said everything. He picked up the fallen coffee pot and set it gently on the counter, then turned to Martha. He said quietly. "Did he hurt you?" She shook her head, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Rex turned to Bryce. His tone was calm, almost too calm. "You think it's funny to spit on someone working to make a living? That woman could be your grandmother." Bryce stammered, his bravado crumbling under the weight of silence. The phone in his hand suddenly felt heavy with guilt. The other bikers closed in, not to fight, but to make him feel every ounce of shame he had ignored all his life. Rex nodded toward the counter. "You're going to make this right," he said. "Start by cleaning the mess you made." Bryce froze, staring at the puddle of coffee. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he picked up a rag. His hands shook. His friends didn't move. The diner watched as the rich boy bent down and wiped the floor. Each stroke of the rag stripped away a layer of arrogance he had carried all his life. Martha tried to stop him. "It's all right, dear," she whispered. "No, Rex said gently. "It's time someone taught him what respect looks like." When Bryce finished, he looked smaller, not because of the cleaning, but because of what it had made him realize. He had never cleaned, never apologized, and meant it. For the first time, he did. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Martha's tired eyes softened. "Thank you, son," she said. The diner exhaled as if it had been holding its breath. Rex nodded slightly and walked back to his table, his crew following silently. But that wasn't the end. Later that night, when the diner closed, Bryce returned. Martha was wiping the last table. He held an envelope filled with cash, his father's money, and tried to hand it to her. "I want to make it right," he said. She refused. "Money can't clean what pride dirties," she said gently. "But kindness can." Her words stayed with him longer than any punishment could. Bryce left the diner with a heavy heart, unaware that Rex was outside, leaning against his bike. The biker muttered, "Maybe there's hope for him after all." A week later, Martha found a note taped to her locker. It was unsigned, but she knew who it was from. Inside, a simple message. Thank you for forgiving me. I'm volunteering at the community kitchen now. You showed me what real work looks like. Beneath it was a receipt, an anonymous, massive donation to a local shelter, made under her name. She cried quietly, holding it close to her chest. Sometimes life's cruelest moments become turning points for someone else's redemption. Martha never told anyone what happened that day, but every biker who had been in the diner remembered it differently. Not about the spit, not about the laughter, but about the old woman who forgave, and the boy who finally learned what respect means. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps keep stories of compassion and redemption alive. Before you go, comment below, what would you have done in that diner? Would you have stood up like Rex, or forgiven like Martha? Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can silence the loudest cruelty and change a heart forever.